So, we have the Game Awards soon, and I think it's safe to say that we all know what the Game of the Year will be. No, I'm not talking about Mind's Eye, I'm talking about Clair Obscur Expedition 33. It's a game that took everyone by surprise. I knew it was going to be a good game based on the trailer, but I didn't think it would be that good. I don't need to tell you guys how good the game is, we all know that by now, so let me just get straight to the point. What if I told you there is a game out there that carries similar mechanics, and not only that, it released over 20 years ago? Shadow Hearts Covenant, or Shadow Hearts 2, was developed by Nautilus and was released in 2004 for the PlayStation 2. It's a JRPG with quite heavy horror undertones, so it's a bit on the darker side. The game is set in an alternate reality version of World War I, and what I really loved was how they incorporated historical events into their own story. They give you updates on the war as the game goes on. When I was playing Expedition 33, I couldn't help but notice some similarities to Shadow Hearts. Most notably the battle system, which takes the turn-based combat and requires your input to time your attacks. I did some further research, and to my surprise, it turns out the director of the game listed Shadow Hearts as one of the inspirations for Clair Obscur. So I'm going to tell you why you should play Shadow Hearts Covenant. First, I'll ask you a question. Did you enjoy the battle system of Clair Obscur? Well, guess what? Shadow Hearts Covenant does the same thing. It uses this mechanic called the Judgment Ring. Each time you attack, a roulette wheel shows up, and you have to time your inputs so the spinning hand lands on the yellow marker, which gives you a guaranteed hit. Or if you're feeling brave, you can try to go for the red marker for a guaranteed critical hit. You also have special attacks that use this mechanic. The closer you get to the red line, the stronger the special attack will become. You can also do combos with your respective party member, which involves one member launching the enemy. And the other member doing an air combo. Not only that, you can even use this mechanic when speaking to merchants to get a discount. I don't think I've ever seen that before. But what I love about all of this is that it mostly eliminates the RNG aspect of turn-based combat. Don't get me wrong, it's still there, but more often than not, you are entirely responsible for landing your hits or missing them. Yuri, one of the protagonists, has his own unique ability where he can fuse into different demons and use their attacks. It's as cool as it sounds, and yes, it does make him pretty damn overpowered. At the end of each fight, you collect soul points, which can be used to level up your demons or fuse new ones. You can collect demons of various elements, for example, fire, light, dark, etc. You can also customize the Judgment Ring with specific items that increase various aspects, such as increasing the size of the hit area, the critical hit area, and also increasing the number of attacks. You can also equip different magic attacks for your party members by collecting these crests throughout the game. So make sure you explore every corner of each level. But now onto the story. I won't get too much into it because that's something for you to experience yourself. But it involves the two protagonists, Karin, who is a military lieutenant who has now become a fugitive, and Yuri, the protagonist of the first Shadow Hearts. It involves them being drawn into a wider conflict. It does take place during World War One, and getting involved with secret societies and the occult who have ulterior motives. Now that begs the question, since Yuri is the protagonist of the first game, should you play the first Shadow Hearts? It's quite difficult to say. I mean, I personally enjoyed my experience with Shadow Hearts, but at the same time, the game hasn't aged the best. The gameplay is limited, the areas are limited, it doesn't have any voice acting. However, I will mention that I do think the first Shadow Hearts does do its whole ambience a bit better than Covenant. But yeah, with that being said, I do think this is a game that only the hardcore JRPG gamer would enjoy, and if you are one of those people, then yeah, go and play it. I also want to mention that Shadow Hearts 1 probably has one of the coolest intros in gaming.
Fond of him.
It's so fucking good. The guitars, the tone, the atmosphere, the violence. You see Yuri making an entrance, not knowing who he is at the time. It's just perfection. With that being said, I don't think it's absolutely necessary to play this, because Shadow Hearts Covenant does do a good job of filling you in on the events of the first game, and they do a good job of explaining Yuri's current situation and why he's in Shadow Hearts Covenant. So yeah, you don't necessarily have to play Shadow Hearts 1, but it's there if you want to play it. But back to the story of Shadow Hearts Covenant. It's a very mature story that's on the darker side, as I mentioned, but it does do a good job of keeping you engaged from start to finish. There's plenty of cutscenes and dialogue throughout, giving you a very rich and detailed story. Despite the darker themes, there are some light-hearted elements sprinkled throughout, and that's thanks to Karin and Yuri being supported by an amazing cast of characters who are actually quite unique, and they deviate from the usual norms of a typical JRPG party.
That's bull. It is not bull. Is there some way to fix it? Well, you've got to do something.
I think you're screwed.
Oh, ow, stop, let go. Oh, you old man.
You've got this old man who can control puppets. And this professional wrestler who is actually a vampire. It's the type of weirdness and bizarreness I love. A lot of JRPGs would have you play as teenagers, and while I'm okay with that, I'm a grown man now. So playing a game with a mostly older and mature cast was really refreshing, and it's something I appreciated a lot.
What? Huh?
Shadow Hearts Covenant also has these small open hubs you can freely explore during your free time. Each area feels alive and they're packed with people you can talk to, and some even give you side quests, giving you access to unique weapons and abilities. It just feels really comforting returning to these towns after completing a dungeon that pushes you to your limit. The main story of Shadow Hearts Covenant takes around 35 to 40 hours to complete, which is actually quite short for a JRPG, but at least you know it doesn't waste your time. But if you do decide to do a bunch of the side content, which is absolutely worth doing, it can easily take you up to 50 hours, so there's still plenty to do. Now let's talk about the music. The music of Shadow Hearts Covenant is quite weird, and I mean that in the best way possible. For example, listen to the battle theme. It's a unique and experimental electronic track with these haunting vocals playing on top of it. You also have the more calmer themes, such as my personal favourite, the map theme. It's so good. I just wish the soundtrack for this game was added to Spotify. Now obviously the game isn't without its faults. The early dungeon isn't the most exciting. Shadow Hearts Covenant is one of those games where it gets better the more you play it, and I don't think this dungeon is the best indicator for the rest of the game, but at least it can be completed in about 30 minutes, so it doesn't overstay its welcome. Another personal pet peeve of mine is that whenever your character levels up, it doesn't restore their HP and MP. It makes leveling up not feel as satisfying as it should be. It's great that I leveled up, but I still have extremely low HP and MP, and I've run out of healing items, so I'm still pretty much screwed. But even so, I feel like these issues are minuscule in the grand scheme of things, and if you are a seasoned JRPG gamer, it shouldn't bother you too much because you know what to expect by now.
A hero has to have one or two weak points, you know. Nobody loves a perfect superhero.
Your brains are enough of a weak point if you ask me.
Shadow Hearts Covenant is a top 10 JRPG of all time for me personally, and it's just a shame it didn't receive the recognition it deserved at the time. It might be due to the fact that it released in 2004, which was a pretty stacked year for gaming, a year which included games like Metal Gear Solid 3, Half-Life 2, Halo 2, Ninja Gaiden, Burnout 3, Jak 3, Ratchet & Clank 3, Silent Hill 4, Prince of Persia Warrior Within, and so many more games I can't think of right now. So it's easy to see why Shadow Hearts Covenant would get lost in the shuffle. I truly believe if the game released now, it would be much better received due to the fact that we have social media now. It would have allowed word of this game to be spread much faster. But yeah, I think I rambled on for long enough. Thank you for watching, and if you did enjoy it, I would appreciate a subscribe. I thought I would make this video because I was having a look on YouTube and saw that there haven't been any videos comparing Expedition 33 to Shadow Hearts Covenant, which surprised me because there are some similarities. So I guess I made the first video on this topic, at least that I know of. But this isn't about me, it's about providing you guys a good game to play. This video isn't to say one game is better than the other, it's more about me telling you to play Shadow Hearts Covenant because it's a game that is 100% worth playing. Catch you later.
Ha 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 ha!